Om Badram Karanebihi Shruniyama Devaha Badram Pashyema Akshabihi Rejatraha Sthirairangair Tushtuam Sastanobihi Vashema Devahitan Yadayuhu Swastina Indro Vridrashravaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Tarksho Arishtanemihi Swastino Bruhaspati Dadatu Om Shanti 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 Yo Antah Pravishya Mama Vacha Imam Prashuptam Sanjeevayati Akila Shakti Daraswadam Nanyam Shtahasta Charana Shravanatvagādīn Pranān Bhagavaten Purushaya Tubhyam Lasatu Srimadananda Tirtendurno Hridambare Yadvachashtandrika Swanta Santapam Vinikrintati Padavakya Pramana Jnan Pranamya Shirasa Gurun Vyakarishye Yata Bhutam Vishnu Tattva Vinirnayam. So good afternoon, good morning and good evening to folks who have joined for the sixth session of Atharvana Upanishad, also called Mundaka Upanishad. So what are we doing? We are in the Pratamo Khandaha, Pratama Mundaka, Pratama Khandaha. Om Brahmo Devanam Pratamaha Sambhabhuva Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gopta Sambhabha Vidyam Sarva Vidyam Pratishtam Atharvaya Jeshtaputraya Praha Atharvane Yam Pravadeta Brahma Atharva Tam Purovacha Angire Brahma Vidyam Sab Bharadvajaya Satyavahaya Praha Bharadvajo Angirase Paravaram Shaunako Havai Mahashalo Angirasam Vidivatu Upasannaha Papracha Kasminnu Bhagavo Vijñāte Sarvamidam Vijñātam Bhavati Tasmai Sahovacha Dve Vidye Veditavye Itihasmayad Brahma Vido Vadanti Paracha Eva Aparacha Tatra Apara Rigvedo Yajurvedaha Samavedo Atharva Vedaha Siksha Kalpo Vyakarunam Niruktam Chando Jyotishamiti Ataparayaya tad aksharam adigamyate yat tad adreshyam agrahyam agotram avarnam achakshuhu ashrotram tadapani padam nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam tad avyayam yad bhutayonim paripashyanti dhiraha. So this is the verse that we are currently looking at. Yat tat adreshyam agrahyam agotram. So those are all the words that we did in the last session. So what are we discussing here? We're discussing about the concepts of God. Yeah. So our Rishi, our Guru Angirasa is basically going to the crux of the problem here, actually telling us who is this Akshara? What is the concept of God here? That is the discussion that is going on in this mantra. And let us not forget, Angirasa is teaching Shuanaka here, the Brahma Vidya or the Akshara Vidya. So when he is talking about the concept of God, and this is something that we need to think very deeply. Yeah. So sometimes we all make this mistake that we just look at some photo or some deity in a temple and then just go ahead and say that is the God and do our bits and feel that we have done our sadhanas for the day. But that is far from truth. Angirasa is asking us to think about the deeper question of who this concept of God is. And to address that, he is first giving us the negative aspects of approaching this supreme person. And he says, this Akshara Namaka Paramatma is Adreshyam. He cannot be seen. He cannot be seen by what? He cannot be seen with material eyes. This Akshara Namaka Paramatma is Agrahyam. He cannot be grasped. Cannot be grasped by what? He cannot be grasped by the material mind. Why cannot he be seen and why cannot he be grasped? That is the next question, isn't it? So to answer that, the next two sets of words are coming here. So he is Agrahyam because he is Agotram. Agotram means he does not have a name. Okay? And last week we looked at the nuances of this and how it can be that in the previous line he said Ataparayaya tad aksharam adigamyate. Like the whole of the Vedas only talk about the Akshara Namaka Paramatma. And then in the very next line, he said, but he's got no names. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. He does not have names. Why is that? We looked at the concepts of linguistic determinism as to what is the limitations of language. So we looked at all that last week. So go back and revise. So these sets of words from this particular mantra, yat tadreshyam, yat tat adreshyam, agrahyam, agotram, is very similar to many other Upanishads. So this is a constant theme in the Upanishads. When the Rishi talks about Paramatma or the Supreme Being, he always starts from the negative aspects and then goes to the positive aspects. Look at Keno Upanishad, also called Talavakara Upanishad. Yeah, part of the Samaveda. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, navag gacchati, no manaha. Na vidmo na vijanimo yad etad anushishyat. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, adreshyam, navag gacchati, agotram, no manaha, agrahyam. So they're very similar words. In Taittiriya Upanishad, yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. That is the agrahyam concept. Okay. So again, in the Keno Upanishad, I mean, of course, we will do Keno Upanishad at some point. There is a whole onslaught of discussions on this topic where Chaturmukha Brahma is teaching Rudra about this Paramatma. That is the Keno Upanishad. So moving on to the next slide. So when he has said this Aksharanamaka Paramatma is Adreshyam and he is Agrahyam, he is given an answer to why he is Agrahyam by saying he is Agotram. Next, he is taking up this word. He is Adreshyam. He cannot be seen. Angirasa has told Shuanaka. Why cannot he be seen? So who wants to answer this question very briefly before we move to the next slide? Why can't Paramatma be seen with material eyes? Who is going to answer that question very quickly, please?
Madhuji, is it because he doesn't have material existence?
Okay, brilliant, Sureshji. Thank you very much. Anybody else wants to come here? No. Okay, Suresh got it spot on. So,
Madhuji,
yeah, go for it, Padmaja.
he has aprakrita sharira, so which cannot be perceived with the material eyes.
Thank you very much, Padmaja. The perfect answer. So, and our Rishi Angirasa, immediately he gives this answer, Avarnam. Okay. Varna means what? Colors. Okay, so here is a beautiful idea. Avarnam. Yeah. So he is not material colors and does not have material colors. So those are important ideas there. Is not material colors. What does is not material colors means? He's not made of photons, okay? Energy. I mean, photons can be light, can be what? Photons are energy. For those who are physics predisposed, they will be able to answer this better. But the light is made of photons or its energy. Yeah. But those two aspects, photons and energy, is still material. Okay. So when Angirasa says he is Avarnam, he is first saying he is not material color. Okay. And more importantly, he does not have material color. Okay, I'll come to this idea a little bit later in this slide. He does not have material color and he is not material color. Okay, so as Sureshji and Padmajaji very rightly said, when not made of material color or does not have material color, how are we going to see this akshara? Okay, so that's a very easy way of understanding. So here is the link here. He is Adreshyam because he is Avarnam. He is Agrahyam because he is Agotram. So that is how you link these four words in this particular mantra. Katha Upanishad, you will be very familiar with this very particular verse. Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Avyayam, Tata, Arasam, Nityam, Agandavachayate, Anadi Anantam, Mahataha Param, Dhruvam, Nichaya, Tan Mrutyur, Mukhat Pramuchyate. Yeah, so this word that you would have seen, where all the 5 tanmatras, yeah, Shabda, Rasa, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha. Those are the 5 tanmatras, right? Those 5 tanmatras is what the 5 Indriyas, Jnana Indriyas actually perceive. So this Aksharanamaka Paramatma is neither of this. He cannot be seen by any of this. So our Katha Upanishad expands this further and it talks about none of these tanmatras. Okay. But here is another interesting problem, and I just want to get folks to think about this. But if God does not have color, why do scriptures mention that he has color? So if you go to our Hindu temples, you have all these deities of different colors. If you have photos in your house, you seem to have various deities of different colors in our scriptures. Yeah. Say, for example, in Purusha Shukta, which we have done about 3 years ago, there is a very famous verse, isn't it? Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varanam Tamasasparar Tamasastu Pare Aditya Varanam. So in Purusha Shukta, part of the Rig Veda, this Paramatma is what described as Aditya Varanam, color of the sun. Okay. Mundaka Upanishad, the same Upanishad talks about Yada Pashyaha Pashyate Rukma Varanam, golden color, Rukma Varanam, Aditya Varanam. Okay. But then the same Upanishad is saying Avaranam. So in one section it says he is Avaranam, and then in other portions of the Vedas he is celebrated as Aditya Varanam or Rukma Varanam. Okay. And I've got a very easy question here. Some of you may know. So, and many of the avatars of Vishnu, for example, are in various colors. We are all very familiar, right? Krishna, for example, is dark blue hue. Rama, for example, green. And we have all these colors. But actually, the Upanishads clearly say that this Paramatma is not made of material color. He does not have material color, and he is not made of material color. So how do you reconcile this Aditya Varanam and Rukma Varanam? Okay. So anybody wants to share their ideas here, please?
Maybe Madhuji, Suresh here. The color is indicative of quality. It is not the material color that we perceive. It is the inherent nature is what is depicted by the color, is how I was understanding.
Yeah, beautiful, Suresh. Anybody else? Any other views here? Anand?
So he's made up of knowledge and bliss and brightness, the energy, and the energy has colors.
Okay, Anand, thank you very much. Interesting ideas there, thoughts. Yeah. Okay, so both Anand and Sushrut, I think got it right. So anybody else? Devalji.
Generally, the color that you see is a reflection. So there is so light can't pass, and what is reflected is what you see as color. So has that got anything to do with this, or we are talking of something completely different?
Yeah, I think it's a different perspective, interesting perspective, Devalji. So yeah, to answer those questions as to what is this color? Yeah, if Paramatma is not made of material colors, what color does he have? Okay, this is a key question. Yeah. So our Guru Vedavyasa has settled this problem. Okay, so our Guru Vedavyasa, who is what Narayana's incarnation himself, actually he settles these questions for us. And he has composed 4 sutras. Arupavad evahi tat pradhanatvad prakashavacha vayartyam ahacha tanmatram darshayati cha ato api smaryate. Okay, I've given you references for the sutras. So go back and check. So this is the beauty of Brahma Sutra. There is no topic that is not untouched. Okay. Arupavad. Look at these verses. They themselves are very important. Arupavad. Prakashavad. So when the Sanskrit says Arupavad, Prakashavad means like brightness. Arupavad means like, vad means like. It's like that. So you say Arupavad, Prakashavad. Okay. Arupavad means what? Tat Pradhanatvad. Arupavad, Matsya Purana, Mandukya Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad, they are all the Vishaya Vakyas for this particular sutra. Yeah. So here, for example, our Mundaka Upanishad itself later will say, Tad Vijnanena Paripashyanti Dhiraha Anandarupam Amrutam Yad Vibhati Anandarupam. Hold on to that. Yeah. Achintyam Apvyapadeshyam Eka Atma Pratyaya Saram Jnana. Okay. Jnana Anandarupa. Yeah. Bhautikani hi rupani bhutebhyo asau paro yataha arupavan ataha proktaha kvatvad vyakataha pare. So this Paramatma is beyond matter. But when I say he's got this various colors, as Sureshji mentions, that should not be taken literally. Okay, it is a very metaphorical thing. It is about brightness. It is about jnana and ananda. So his color is jnanananda maya. So that is what his color is. When I say Aditya Varanam, Aditya is what? It's brightness, light. It's light, it's brightness, it removes darkness. And what is Paramatma's form? Jnana Anandamaya, Jnanamaya, as Anandji was mentioning, Jnanamaya. Okay. So that is how you take it. So here is still the question, isn't it? Why does Krishna have the dark complexion? Who wants to say that? After all, Krishna means what? Akarshana. Krishna means Karshati. Akarshana, that which attracts. That is what is Krishna. So why is this guy got dark color? Anybody wants to take that question? Why is Krishna depicted in dark color? Does he really have the blue color that we use, a blue paint and paint a deity? And does that become Krishna? No, because Angirasa has clearly said it is not material color and does not have material color. So the problem still is, why does Krishna is depicted as somebody who's got dark blue? Why is Rama depicted as somebody who has got green color? Some people folk gives a dark green kind of a hue to Rama when they have these vigrahas or they have paints. And then you have Hamsaramaka Paramatma, who is white in color, and so on. So do some reading about it. But the key idea about Angirasa's view here is that this chap is completely beyond matter. No material color or form. Does God have a color? If so, what is it made of? Certainly not made of photons, which is material. So metaphorical. So this whole verses of Aditya Varanam, Rukma Varanam is metaphorical in Vedic philosophy that gives us an idea of nature of brightness, light, Jnananandamaya. Dr. Manjari.
Namaste, this is Dr. Sharath here.
Hi, Sharat. Yeah.
Sorry if I am interrupting in between. My idea was a bit simple. I thought that they are depicted in blue color because in the olden age it was considered to be beautiful to be dark.
Sure. Yeah. That's interesting thought, Sharatji. Blue, the dark is beautiful. Yes, Krishna is beautiful. That is also, there are some folks who say blue depicts, so when you look through the window, when you look through the window, the sky is blue, isn't it? Sky is blue when you look through your window. And what is the sky? The sky or Akasha is what? Akasha is a name for Akshara, right? And that is something that is an all-pervasive principle. That which is an all-pervasive principle, like the sky, which is blue. So to give us that idea about who Paramatma is, that is also one reason that is given as to why Krishna, for example, is depicted as in dark hue color. But you are absolutely right. In ancient India, to be dark is beautiful and Krishna is beautiful. And why is he beautiful? Because he's all attractive. Yeah. Thank you, Sharatji. So when we are doing all this, so what have we done so far? Lots of negatives so far, isn't it? Adreshyam, Agrahyam, Agotram, and Avarnam. 4 concepts of God is given here by Angirasa. So here is an important point that I just want to stress. Something called Paroksha Jnana and something called Aparoksha Jnana. Okay. Paroksha Jnana means indirect knowledge. Aparoksha Jnana means direct knowledge. That's a simple definition of what is Paroksha Jnana and what is Aparoksha Jnana. And that is very relevant for this discussion. Why? Because as you know, this famous verse between Yajnavalkya, Maitreyi, Atmava are drashtavyaha, Shrotavyo mantavyo nitidyasitavyaha Maitreyi. So the Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nitidyasitavyaha. So this is what we are doing in our satsang and the Gita practice sessions and so on. What are we doing? Shrotavya, we are hearing. We are either hearing others saying it or we are hearing ourselves reading something. So Shrotavya. Then what do? Mantavya, we do manana. What we have heard, we will think and analyze and see what is right, what is wrong, etc., etc. Once we have kind of dissected that out and we have a firmed up knowledge, then we go into Nitidyasitavya. We go into deep meditation. Okay. All these, okay, and we need to think about this. All this is Paroksha Jnana. Paroksha Jnana means indirect knowledge. It does not give us the direct knowledge of Paramatma. Okay, think about that statement. How much ever Vedas we read, how much ever Bhagavad Gita we read, how much ever we discuss among ourselves and we do dhyana, it is still an indirect knowledge of Paramatma. Okay? That is called Paroksha Jnana. Okay? Whereas in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the samadhi, isn't it? Something called samprajnata sthiti and asamprajnata sthiti. So who wants to tell us about what is samprajnata and what is asamprajnata? Anybody wants to come here and tell us about these two states of meditation? Anand.
So the first one is the sampragnata sthiti, is a deep meditation where the mind is focused on a particular thing, maybe like God. And when the asampragnata sthiti is, even when the mind stops thinking, that is a state of samadhi. I think that is.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, so the key point there is, as Anand ji was mentioning, we may do Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nididhyasitavya, and somehow when we are doing in deep meditation, we think that we are seeing God or we are seeing some light. Our gurus say that that is still a construct of the mind. It is a material construct. Yeah, material construct is material. Mind is material, right? So if mind is material, whatever construct that we see in deep meditation is still a material construct. So we need to hold that idea into our mind. But our Paramatma is not made of material things. So the material construct still remains a material construct. It is only when the mind itself stops functioning, so says our Shastras and our gurus tell us this, that when the mind itself stops functioning, then the Jiva Swarupa wakes up. And when the Jiva Swarupa wakes up, what happens? Atma va are drashtavyaha. Okay. So that knowledge that the Jiva Swarupa gets about its Antaryaman who is inside him, that is the Aparoksha Jnana. That is the direct knowledge. The Jiva is directly experiencing the Antaryaman who is inside him. Yeah, that is called Aparoksha Jnana. So in all our daily transactions of whatever that we do by reading a book or doing pujas or going to temples or doing satsangs, etc., they all remain Paroksha Jnana. So we need to have this knowledge that they remain Paroksha Jnana, but that is the first step. Okay? So that is the step towards Asamprajnata Sthiti, where you can get Aparoksha Jnana. Okay. So this is the distinction there. So, so Harish, you got a question. Come, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry, I'm actually stepping outside. So if you look at the adjectives like here, agrahya, avarna, and all that, that seems to be more making the case for a nirguna type of attribute. So how is, maybe you explained it with the paroksha jnana, but what is the counter for that? And is that going to be discussed later? I may have missed something.
Yeah. So sure, Harish. So we had this discussion about avachyatva and sarva shabda vachyatva in the previous class, and we had a discussion about nirguna and saguna and so on. But here, when I say nirguna, you're absolutely right. I think when I say nirguna, he is without guna of what? He is without material gunas. So that is where the nirguna idea comes from, and that is what our Rishi is saying, Angirasa is saying, that he is nirguna made from what? From material aspect. But that does not mean he is an absolute zero, useless entity. No, he's got lots of other infinite attributes, and which is what he's going to talk next, Harish. So
Okay.
hang in there. So it's going to come in the next few words. So what we should not do here is we should not forget about the Paroksha Jnana and the Aparoksha Jnana concepts. Paroksha Jnana takes us towards Aparoksha Jnana. Okay. Now, so the next question is, if he is adreshyam, he is agrahyam, he is agotram, and he is avarnam, what is his form? So these four are from our perspective, right? From our perspective, he is adreshyam. From our perspective, he is agotram. From our perspective, he is agrahyam. And from our perspective, he is avarnam. So then what is he then? What is his akara? Does he have a akara? There are some folks, he says, who is nirakara, nirguna, he's shunya and so on. But here, what is he? What is it? Does he have a form? Does he have a akara? And that is also a puzzling reply that Angirasa says, achakshuhu and shrotram. Achakshu shrotram. Yeah. Achakshu shrotram means what? Achakshu ashrotram. He has no eyes, he has no ears. Apani padam, apani apadam. He has no hands and he has no legs. Okay, so this is the beauty of how the Upanishads teaches us about the concept of God. So the first two is what? Examples of Jnana Indriyas, Chakshush and Shrotram. And the next two is what? Pani and Padam. Pani means hands, Pada means legs. He says he has no hands, he has no legs, he has no eyes, he has no ears. But then look at the Purusha Shukta again. Sahasra Akshaha Sahasrapad. The same Rig Veda then says, this Purusha, this Paramatma, he has Sahasra Akshaha. Sahasra there means infinite. Akshaha means eyes. He's got infinite eyes. Sahasrapad, he's got infinite legs. Okay. So here he is saying, Achakshu Shrotram Apani Padam, which is opposite of what Purusha Shukta is saying. And what does Katha Upanishad says? Asino Duram Vrajati Shayano Yati Sarvataha. Asina, he is lying in one place. Duram Vrajati, he is running around everywhere. He is sleeping in one place, but he is everywhere. He is moving everywhere. Contradictory attributes is talking about. So this is very interesting about how we understand this. This Paramatma does not have eyes. He does not have ears. He does not have legs. He does not have hands. What kind of hands and what kind of heads? Material eyes, material ears, material hands, and material legs. But what? With his eyes, he can hear. With his ears, he can walk. With his hands, he can see. So there's all these things that our Upanishads talk about this concept of God as Achintya Adbhuta Shakti, something that is way beyond our comprehension. So how do you bring home the truth as this concept of the Supreme Being as way beyond our comprehension? How do you bring that in words? That is what Angirasa is actually attempting here to bring home the truth. So this guy is completely different. So how to reconcile what appears to be contradictory statements in Vedas? So this is what is our Upanishads and our Shastras talk about it all the time. So I just want to remind you, and I just put this as a revision slide. So you remember, you may remember about 2.5 or so years ago, we did a few sessions on Omkara and Gayatri and all that. So we did a session on Omkara. What is the philosophy of Om? It is not just a sound, it is something very different. So that concept of Om is exactly what Angirasa is teaching us in this particular verse. Let me take through this very briefly. So Om is what? There are various aspects to the Om, as you know. So the simplest way of looking at it is Akara, Ukara, and Makara. They three form the Om. Okay. Akara, Allah, Illa, Anyata, Viruddha. So that letter Akara basically is talking about Allah, Illa, Anyata. That means what? He is not this, he is not this, he is opposite of this. Okay. So that is what it is in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. You will be very familiar with Neti Neti Atma Grihyate. Okay. That famous verse of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Some schools of philosophies have said he is Neti Neti, he is not this, he is not this, he is not this, he is not this, he is nothing, he is Nirguna. Yeah, that is what one school of philosophy has taken it to the extreme level. Whereas the other schools of philosophy will say that Neti Neti is none of the material things. That is exactly what the Akara of the Om stands for. Allah, Illa, Anyata or Viruddha, which is what these verses talk about. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vak gacchati, no manaha, na vidmaha, na vijani, mo yadeta danushishyat. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. They all talk about the Akara concept of the Supreme Being. Now you may ask, why is he none of this? Because he is Uttama. He is far beyond all this. That is what the Ukara stands there. Ukara stands for Uttama. Okay. So why is we are there? Let us do 15:16 and 15:17. So one of you can volunteer and recite this again, please. Chapter 15:16 and 17. Pragnesh, go for it.
द्वामिमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरक्षाक्षर एव च क्षर सर्वाणि भूतानि कुटस्थोऽक्षर उच्यते उत्तम पुरुषस्त्वन्यः परस्मात्मेतु दायतः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य विश्वस्य ईश्वरः.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pragnesh ji. Yeah, excellent. So that Uttama, the Uttamatva of Paramatma is discussed in the chapter 15, isn't it? 16 to 18 verse. So one should never forget that. So he is Allah, Illa, Anyata, Viruddha. He is Neti, Neti because he is Uttama. He is beyond whatever you know in the material world. He is beyond that. But Makara stands for Mana. But he can be known. He can be known, although he is none of these material things, because he is far beyond it, you can still know him. That is what the Makara stands for. Mana, Manam, Jnanam. Shastra Yonitvat. He can be known through the scriptures. Okay. So far, what we have done, so I just want to introduce this idea of Akara, Ukara and Makara. What we have been doing so far is the Akara aspect. Allah, Illa, Anyata, Viruddha, by saying what? Adreshyam, Agrahyam, Agotram, Avarnam, Achakshushrodram, Tad Apani Padam. So those are all the negatives as to what he is not. Okay. So we now know what he is not. So what is he then? So that is what Angirasa goes for it. So Harish, here is your answer. He is not Nirguna. He is Nityam. Nityatva is an attribute of Paramatma. Nityo Nityanam of Katha Upanishad. He is Nityam. He is eternal. So how does it make relevance here? When I said he is Achakshushrodram Tad Apani Padam, what Angirasa is saying is he may not have any of these material indriyas. He has something that is totally non-material, which is Nityam. Yeah, that Jnanananda Swarupa of Paramatma is Nitya, eternal. He is Vibhum, omnipotent. Omnipotency is a quality of Paramatma that cannot be given to Nirguna Brahman. So Angirasa's view is absolutely clear as to whom he is talking about this Akshara. He is saying he is Vibhum, he is omnipotent. Sarvagatam, omnipresent. Sarvagatatva is an attribute of Paramatma. Okay, Sarvagatam. Susukshmam, Sukshmasya Shukshmam, Susukshmam. The most minute, the most subtle. Okay. If Jiva is the subtlest that we know, he is inside the Jivas. Susukshmam. Okay. So those are all the positive attributes of Paramatma that Angirasa is talking about. Nityam, Vibhum, Sarvagatam, Susukshmam. And it is very, very important here because we are going to come to these verses in a meeting. The Sarvagatam is everywhere. Susukshmam is the subtlest of the subtle. And here is an important point to remember. He is all these simultaneously. Okay. And that is what the Katha Upanishad was talking about. I've given you the answer here itself. I thought I'll keep it as a quiz. But Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan Na Atma Asya Janto Nihito Guhayam Asino Duram Rajati Sayano Yati Sarvataha Kastam Madamadam Devam Mad Anyo Nyatumarhati. Those beautiful verses of Katha Upanishad that talks about the contradictory aspects of Paramatma simultaneously. They are there in the same place simultaneously. And of course, all these attributes of Paramatma is changeless, avyayam. There is no internal gradations. He is changeless. Okay. So here in the second half of this particular verse, Angirasa is giving all the positive aspects of Paramatma. The Makara is discussed here. Nityam Vibhum Sarvagatam Susukshmam Tadavyayam. Okay. Now, here is again well worth a quick revision. So, in these verses, Sarvagatam Susukshmam, there are contradictory aspects of Akshara. So, this should lead us to think about this supreme being celebrated in the Vedas and the Upanishads actually is giving us an idea about the concept of Achintya Shakti of Akshara. There's some let's say supernatural power of the supreme being that is beyond our comprehension. So that is one definition of Achintya Shakti Vicharaha. It is also called Achintya Shakti, Amanu Shakti, Aishwarya Shakti, Duranta Shakti, Nija Shakti, Agatana Gatana Shakti, Ananta Shakti. It goes in Upanishads, various descriptions given to this powers of the Supreme Paramatma that we cannot comprehend. Yeah. So what are the essential criteria of this Achintya Shakti, such as Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, Sarvagatam Susukshmam, Asino Duram Rajati, Shayano Yati Sarvataha. So what are the characteristics? Again, we should never forget. Brahmatarka by Veda Vyasa gives a criteria. Three criteria needs to be fulfilled for us to understand what is the Achintya Shakti. Contradictory characteristics present simultaneously, and this evidence must come from the Veda, and that should increase our understanding of the greatness of God. Those are the three criteria that Shastras tell us when we have to understand the concept of Achintya Shakti of Akshara, okay, which is what Angirasa is telling us. So now here is the next beautiful set of verse, and I'll see how much justice I can do for the next 22 minutes. If this guy is so supernatural, he's got such an Achintya Shakti, and if Angirasa has said you can't see him, you can't hear him, you can't grasp him and all, then it means, do we not have is there any scope for us? Is there any future for us, mortals, to even begin to understand the supreme principle? How can we mortals begin to understand the supreme principle? What is the one easy step by which we can begin to comprehend the greatness of the supreme principle? Okay. So I'm going to pause for 10 seconds there, because that I'll give a clue. That is what the third sutra of Vedanta Sutra is. So who is going to tell us about this?
Is it Shastra Yonitvat?
Thank you. Shastra Yoni is the fourth one. Anand Kulkarni?
Samanvaya, I don't know. I think I'm wrong.
So we can begin to understand him through a guru.
Okay, that's true. We can understand as how? We can begin to understand him through a guru as what? So go through the three sutras of Badarayana, the first three sutras. Anybody wants to tell us or share the first three sutras of Badarayana?
So it is Athato Janma Jignasa. Nay. And the second one is Janmadyasya Yataha.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten the third. The fourth one is Shastra Yonitva.
Okay.
Tattu Samanvaya is the fifth.
Tattu Samanvaya.
Yeah, is the fifth one. So the third one, I don't know.
Okay, fine. So I might have done a little bit of confusing statements here, but anyway, I think most of you got the answer.
Third one is Shastra Samanvaya.
Shastra
Yonitvat. Shastra Yonitvat.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the first one is Atato Brahma Jignasa Brahmana Lakshanamaha Om Janmadyasya Yataha. And the Janmadyasya Yataha is known through Shastra Yoni, Shastra. And that Shastra needs to be studied through Tattu Samanvaya. And the fifth one is Ikshatehena Shabdam. So, okay, so that is the sequence. So we need to never forget the sequence. So why I am saying this is, when Veda Vyasa has said Atato Brahma Jignasa, then therefore the inquiry into Brahman shall begin. Who is this Brahman is the next question. That is exactly where we are. if this Brahman is so beyond our comprehension, how can we even begin to make the journey of understanding who he is? That is a problem, isn't it? Anandji is right. We learn it through a Guru Mukha. But what is that Guru going to teach us? What is that Guru's idea of inculcating in us who that Brahman is? Yat Bhuta Yonim. That is immediately what Angirasa puts that word there. Nityam Vibhum Sarvagatam Susukshmam Tad Avyayam Yat Bhuta Yonim Paripashyanti Dhiraha. So the Paripashyanti Dhiraha is significant. Paripashyanti Dhiraha. The knowledgeables know him how? Bhuta Yonim. So if we understand that this Paramatma or this Brahman or Bhagavan, they are all the same. Some folks think they are different. they are seriously mistaken. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, that Bhagavatam verse, we are all very familiar. All these three are the same. Yeah. So how do we understand that principle? And there is a very simple formula that Vedavyasa has done in the second sutra. So I did a small mistake there. It was not the third sutra, it was the second sutra. So it was the second sutra that Vedavyasa did, which is exactly what Angirasa says. Although he is Achintya Adbhuta Shakti, you mortals, Angirasa says to Shuanaka, you mortal can understand this Achintya Adbhuta Shakti of Paramatma by understanding he is Bhuta Yoni. Okay, so we have to think about who this Bhuta Yoni is. That's a very significant word. Bhuta and Yoni. Bhuta has got two aspects to it. Bhuta, that which has Bhuti. Bhuti means what? That which is capable of elevating itself is called Bhuti. All jivas are capable of elevating themselves through sadhana. So we are all called Bhutas. Okay? All jivas are Bhutas. Okay, but there is only one Mahat Bhutam, and that is Vishnu. We are all Bhutas. Then, of course, there is the Panchabhuta, the material world. They are also called Bhutas. Okay, so Jivas and the material world, you can say they are all Bhutas. Yoni is important. Yoni has got three meanings in Shastra. Okay, Yoni Bharya. Bharya means wife. Okay, Yoni means Bharya. Yoni can also mean Karana. Yoni can also mean Utpatti Sthana. Okay. Karana means what? Cause. Utpatti Sthana means what? The base from which everything happens. Okay. Bharya means what? Wife. So we need to know these meanings. Then we will be able to understand the importance or the significance of what Angirasa is saying when he says Bhuta Yoni. Okay. So Bhuta Yoni there is Karana and Utpatti Sthana. He who is the Karana and Utpatti Sthana of all the Bhutas is Bhuta Yonim, which is what Acharya said, Brahmana Lakshanamaha Om Janmadyasya Yataha. He who is the creator, etc. of the all of existence. Okay? That is the definition of Brahman, which is what Angirasa is talking about as Bhuta Yonim. Okay. So paripashyanti, paritaha pashyanti, pashyanti means to see means to know, paritaha means from all aspects, dhiraha means what? Dhi plus ra, somebody who is enthusiastic to gain knowledge, who is brave and determined. You become brave and determined only when you are knowledgeable. When you have knowledge, you have strength. So all those ideas should come to you. Okay, so paripashyanti dhiraha, that this akshara is Bhuta Yonim. Okay. So here I said Yonim also means Bharya. Bharya means what? Wife or consort. So who is the consort of Vishnu? Lakshmi or Shri Tattva. Is Shri Tattva also Bhuta Yonim? Maybe from one perspective, but when it comes to discussing, so that is why we should always see the contextual relevance. We have understood Akshara can also be Shri Tattva, right? But Shri Tattva is still a dependent principle. So in the highest principle of Akshara is who we have understood that as Brahman or Paramatma or Vishnu. Yeah. Because why do we say that Shri Tattva can be Bhuta Yonim, but primarily the Bhuta Yoni is this Akshara Namaka Paramatma. Because in Ambarini Shukta of Rigveda, Shri Tattva herself says, Yam Kamaye tam tamugram karnomi tam brahmanam tam rishim tam sumedami aham suve pitaram asya murdan mama yonihi apsvantaha samudre. From my forehead, aham suve pitaram. From my forehead comes this pitara, the father of the universe. Who is that? Chaturmukha Brahma. Okay, more than my forehead. But mama yoni, my karana or utpatti sthana, apsu antaha samudre, that fellow is lying on this ocean. It's the Ambarini Shukta there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful verses there, talking about the creatorship and so on. So the Bhuta Yoni here primarily talks about this Akshara Namaka Paramatma. Okay? So then the next question is, yes, just by saying that he is the creator, so by understanding that there is a supreme principle that has created this universe, we can begin to grasp the greatness of Paramatma. Okay, that is all well and good. But how to understand the creatorship of Akshara? So that is what Angirasa takes us to the next verse. So I hope you're able to appreciate the logical sequence here as to how Angirasa elevates us from one level to another. First he said Akshara should be known only through the scriptures. All scriptures talks about the Akshara. Then he said what this Akshara is not, but what he is. Then he said, how can you understand this greatness of Paramatma, of this Akshara? Then he talks about what is this creatorship of Akshara all about. Okay? So this verse. This is one of my favorite verses of Mundaka Upanishad. I make an attempt at least to go through the first line. Yeah, over the next 12 minutes, at least we'll touch upon the first line and then we'll make progress in the next class. So when he talks about this, Yattad adreshamagrahim agotram avarnam achakshushrotam tadapanipadam nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam tadavyayam yadbhuta yonim paripashyanti dhiraha yata urnanabihi srujate grihnate cha yata prithvyam oshadayaha shambhavanti yata sataha purushat keshalomani tata aksharat sambhavati iha vishvam. Okay. This is the summary of Vedic philosophy. This whole idea of Janmadhyasya Yataha can open into so many ways. But this thing is a summary of Vedic philosophy of what is this existence that we see out there and what is the role of Akshara Namaka Paramatma and how is this all happening? Okay. Yata urnanabihi srujate gruhnate cha. Yata prithvyam oshadayaha sambhavanti yata sataha purushat keshalomani tata aksharat sambhavati iha vishwam. If we can memorize these verses and understand and contemplate on this, then we have understood the Vedic philosophy. And we also understand what it cannot be, because Angirasa has taught this to Shuanaka. It is a pravachana. Yeah. So that pravachana of Angirasa to Shuanaka is authoritative because it is from the Vedas. It is Apaurushya Vedas. This sequence of evidence is authoritative. Nobody can dispute that. So what do I mean by all this? So in all of existence, there are only three concepts, right, that we have done. There is this Brahman, there is this matter, then there are all these jivas. So this is the trilogy or the triangle or the relation. There are three entities in all of existence. There is nothing outside this. Okay? Period. There is nothing outside this. So each one has got its own aspects of creation. So there is a creation of the matter. There is the creation of the jivas. And whether you can view it that way or not, even Brahman has his own types of creation. What is it? That is all his avatars. Also a type of creation for him. For jivas, it's what? We acquiring a material body. For matter is what? Mula Prakriti is always there. Okay, that Mula Prakriti transforms. Yeah, the transformation of the Mula Prakriti is the creation of matter. Okay? In Vedic philosophy, it is not a de novo creation. Creation does not come out of nothing. It is not a de novo creation. It always comes from Mula Prakriti, which is eternal, but it just undergoes transformation. The transformation is what we call creation. And the transformed object has got a purpose. Okay, so that becomes a real creation. So all those ideas you can discuss. So these are all the three entities in creation. And our Guru Angirasa is actually talking about this. Yata urna nabihi srijate grihnate cha. So what is it very superficially saying? Urna nabihi, urna means these threads that come out. The threads come from nabihi, from this abdomen. In which insect the threads come out from the abdomen? It is the spider. Okay, srujate grihnate. So as how the spider releases the threads and withdraws it. That is talking about a type of creation. And for whom? We'll come to that less, but I just want to illustrate these examples first. Next is what? Yata pruthivyam oshadayaha sambhavanti. Pruthivi, mud. Oshadayaha, plants. Sambhavati, how do these seeds become plants on earth? That is a type of creation. So this is an example of a type of creation for something among these three. Okay. So one is matter, the other one is for jivas. So who is going to tell me which example is for the creation of matter and which example is for the creation of jivas here? Quick quiz. Any takers? Anand.
I think the spider analogy is for the matter,
Okay.
and the plant analogy is for the jivas.
Thank you, Anand. Anybody else has got a different view on this? Okay, good. Yeah, Anand got it spot on. And the third one, Yata Sataha Purushat Keshalomani. Okay. Purushat, you and me, Keshalomani, hair that comes on or grows on our body. Okay. That talks about a particular type of a concept or an idea of creation. How the hair grows on your body, in your body. How the seed becomes a plant, or as how the spider builds its web. Okay, for those of us living in the UK, we have seen over the last 4 to 6 weeks, our gardens are full of these spiders, full of spiders and spider webs. So every time I'm seeing this, I always think about this verse. So I don't disturb the spider webs at all. I usually try and walk around them because it is such an important example. It is one of the most perfect example of creation of the material world. Okay, why do I say that? So I just want to spend 6 minutes just for this particular slide and close today's session. Okay, this is a beautiful, beautiful example. Yata urnanabihi srijate gruhnate cha. So what I did is I did a bit of a Google search and looked at the anatomy of a spider. Okay, so the anatomy of the spider is amazing. So the spider has got a silk gland in its abdomen. And from the silk gland comes this opening, spinneret as it's called. And from this, the gland that is in the abdomen, the silk comes out, the silk comes out through the spinnerets and it makes this spider web. Okay? That is the physiology as to how the web is made, spider web is made. Okay. Here is an important point there. So this is the greatness of our Upanishad. So clearly there were a lot of, what is the, who is going to remind us? What is the science of insects called? I forgot. Anybody has an idea? What is the science of insects? Entomology.
Entomology.
Yes. Entomology. Thank you, Sushil. So entomology. So our rishis were also great entomologists because they knew how the spider was making this web through something from his abdomen where it's got the silk gland. Of course, the spider is a living thing, right? It also has got a jiva like you and me. Yeah. So it has got a sentient thing inside it. It's a living being. There is a sentient jiva in it, which is directing the silk gland to make the web. Okay. This jiva is not transforming itself into the web. That is the most important point in this example that Angirasa is giving here. The jiva that is there in the spider is not transforming into the web. It is the contents within its abdominal cavity that is the body which is made of matter that it carries, which is different from the jiva, that is actually making the spider's web. So that is the physiology of this. So obvious question, does the jiva in the spider transform to the web, or the silk glands in the spider web, the abdomen generates silk? It is the silk glands that generates the silk. Okay, so that is also the same. I mean, I was thinking about our Spider-Man. The idea of Spider-Man probably comes from Mundaka Upanishad, I think. So where the Spider-Man is putting the spiders out and then he is withdrawing it. So think about our Spider-Man. Think about the spider. And it is so interesting when you look at this, because there is a very deep level philosophy there. Okay. What is the deep level philosophy? Hopefully, I'll close today's session talking about this. So the key point there is, the material world comes from this Mula Prakriti, which is there in the abdomen of Brahman. Okay. Mula Prakriti is not Brahman. Brahman is different. Mula Prakriti is different. Brahman is the efficient cause of the Mula Prakriti to make the web, which is called the universe. This example is profound, because what are the spiders doing? They're making this web, and what are all these flies doing? Flies go and get stuck in this web and they suffer. That is what jivas, our role is that. Okay. Our role is we are getting stuck in this web and then we are suffering. Okay. That is the idea there when you look at the web. And when you look at this illustration, you got the spider and you got the web. That is exactly what the metaphor of this famous picture, where we have the Vishnu lying on this primordial matter. Then there is the Shri Tattva, and then from his Nabi comes this web. What is that web? That web is the lotus with 14 petals. Why is that lotus got 14 petals? That are the 14 levels of the material universe. Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Mahaloka, Satyaloka, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. This whole of the material universe is this 14-petal lotus, which is what this web is all about, where various places of the universe, these jivas are stuck and doing samsara. Okay, so a very, very important aspect of creation here is, there is always a conscious principle in material creation. Material creation it just doesn't happen. Okay, there always is a efficient cause. There is a famous sutra. We have done this in our journey, in our creation lectures. Veda, as I said, Rachana na anupapattescha. So look at this, Rachana. So Jada does not have a capacity for self-initiated action. So for any purposeful transformation, there always has to be an efficient cause. Okay. So that Bhuta Yonim, the very first thing that we have to understand is, there is always an efficient cause in material creation. And this Brahman, Vishnu, Paramatma, Bhagavan, Krishna, whatever else name you want to call this, he is the efficient cause of the universe. Okay. He is the sentient principle behind creation. Mula Prakriti is the material cause of the universe. Okay, so these are key ideas here. Okay. But there is a Nimitta Karana, which is efficient cause. There is the Upadana Karana, which is the material cause. So Narayana is the Nimitta Karana for Srishti. Mula Prakriti is the Upadana Karana of Srishti. The Abhimani of Mula Prakriti is Shri Tattva. So that is how you build the philosophy. So then, of course, the last point to say that is, you might say, why did God choose to bring something through his navel and then that becomes a 14-petal nose? It could have come from his toes. It could have come from his nose. It could have come from his hands, isn't it? Why should it come from the abdomen? Okay, these are all subtle points of discussion. Nevertheless, it's interesting, and that is why there is this verse here, Srujate. Okay, for those of you who are very interested in Sanskrit grammar and so on, this is a Atmani Pada. Srujate. Gruhnate is a Bahuvachana. This one, Srujate, Atmani Pada, means It is his Satya Sankalpa. He chose that he will keep the material universe in his womb, and with every creation, he brings forth this creation through his abdomen. It comes out through the navel. If spiders can do that, will Paramatma not be able to do this? Okay. And our rishis give this spider's web as an example to illustrate a very key point about efficient cause and upadana cause. Okay. So I am going to stop there because there is a lot of philosophy that comes about what that Bhuta Yoni is and how does it fit into all this. Okay, all right, so let's stop there, and of course there are very many slides that we need to discuss, and of course we need to discuss about the creation of jivas, then we think about the nature of his creation, etc, 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 etc. There's lots of things to come, so I'll stop there. And we'll carry on with this discussion next week, unless there are any specific questions. Krishna Pranamastu, and we'll close today's session. Any Q&As, any Qs, questions?
Namaskar, Matsudanji. I have a question actually.
Yeah.
Actually, but after knowing all this about it, then in that asam pragnata sthiti, we say there is no mind. But should it be that it should not be overwhelmed? Our mind should be so overwhelmed with the Paramatma, like you know about him so much, and then that how it can be no mind, Matsudanji? How in that asam pragnata sthiti?
So, okay, I think Pratibha, you are asking a very, very deep question there as to how are we supposed to know the Paramatma when you're in deep meditation. I don't know, to be honest. I think each one of us has to go through it. But our Shastras give such example. And today morning, in our sessions, we had this discussion about Dhruva, right? As to how Dhruva, when he had that Aparoksha Jnana and he saw Paramatma, he was speechless and he could not say anything. And then Paramatma himself makes him, sort of allows him to speak and so on. So I think we'll be in a total state of shock, I think. Or in that, we will be experiencing our own Jnanananda, and we see this Paramatma who is his Jnanananda. So how that interaction is going to be probably is we cannot express this in words. It only can be experienced, as our Shastras say. So the only key point that I want to mention there is when the material mind goes still, our Jiva Swarupa also has a mind. Yeah. So that mind of the Jiva Swarupa will then, perceive all this is the theory there. So there is the body which has got non-eternal indriyas, and then there is the Jiva Swarupa that has got all these eternal indriyas. So the non-material eternal indriyas of the Jivas, which is non-different from the Jivas, perceive the Antaryamin who is inside the Jiva. So that is how the philosophy progresses. I hope that answered your question. Kavita ji had a comment to make. Let me just say, she's saying stem cells. Okay, Kavita ji, do you want to come in and share in what context you're thinking about stem cells here?
We were just discussing about the navel being a source of Brahma. So this was I heard this somewhere. So it's interesting, we get the stem cells from the umbilical cord, navel. So I was just wondering whether that could be the cause.
Well, very nice, Kavita ji. I had not thought about this. That's an excellent idea. So about the stem cell, stem cell collections from umbilical cord, stem cell collections for various bits, regenerative medicine and so on. Yeah, it's very interesting. Thanks, Kavita, for sharing this. Neeta Sushruth.
I had a doubt, Madhu. The Ambrini Sukta, it says that Lakshmi says that Mama Yonim is Vishnu, but she is eternal. So she is not actually created. So how can she say that I am created by Vishnu?
Yeah, excellent point. So I think you'll just have to stay with me because that verse is coming in about a couple of verses from now, Sushruth, within the same Upanishad. Yeah. So, but you're raising a very important question. If Lakshmi is eternal, what is her creation? Okay. So here is the subtle point. Think about this over the next few days. The creation for Lakshmi is the motivation to bring forth creation. So that motivation that is brought up by Vishnu to motivate Shri Tattva to start the creation. So that motivation is her creation. So I hope you got that point. So
Yeah.
that is her creation. Yeah.
Is it the willpower you are saying? Motivation means?
It is, yeah, I don't know whether it will power.
Because somewhere you said will, he had some, I mean, some of the Upanishads, I think it came, isn't it? He wanted to, or he willed to create and.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that is, so for example, there is a verse that will come next, tapasa chiyate brahma. So that is where that will, he thought and creation happened. Yeah. So that will, you're right, Sheilaji. So in Mundaka Upanishad, the next verse will be tapasa chiyate brahma. Tad annam abhijayate. So Sushru, that is the answer for that. Tapasa chiyate brahma, tad annam upajayate. Annam there is Shri Tattva or Lakshmi. So the question comes exactly what you asked. How can Shri Tattva be created? So that Annam abhijayate. Anna is the name of Shri Tattva. What is that creation? Atharvana Upanishad talks about it. But anyway, I'll introduce that. It is that motivation or impulsion of Shri Tattva to start creation, and then she transforms into Shri Bhu, Durga of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and then from her forehead comes Chaturmukha, and then Chaturmukha does the creation, and then from Chaturmukha comes Rudra, from Rudra comes the three aspects of Rudra where all the Tanmatras come and the Panchabhutas come and so on. So you can look at creation at various levels, but primarily directed by Paramatma. So it is that impulsion to create is her creation. Hope that answers, Sushi.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, just one more thing I wanted to mention. The same as Kavita ji was mentioning about stem cells. I mean, if people don't know, yes, stem cells can differentiate into other cells, isn't it? The other thing I was thinking about umbilical cord is, we say if someone is dependent on someone, like the umbilical cord is still connected, it is not cut. So I think we connected to Brahma, and from where we all come, the umbilical cord is always connected, means we are always dependent on Brahma for all the supply of everything that we need, like the fetuses. So that's just an idea that came today as you put the picture up. So
Beautiful, Ditaji. Excellent. So many ideas. Umbilical cord, stem cells, dependence. Wonderful. So it's not surprising, isn't it? Our rishis have given these wonderful metaphors that really takes us to higher levels of philosophy. Pragnesh.
You had also mentioned about the 11 gates, though Gita mentions Navadware Pure, but you had added 2, which included the umbilical and the Brahmarandras or Sahasra Chakra. So that also brings back to the umbilical cord.
Yeah. Thanks, Pragnesh. So that comes in Puram Ekadvashadwaram, comes in Katha Upanishad, where Yama talks to Nachiketa. So that umbilical cord is also one of the it's one among the 11 gates. Thank you. Excellent for reminding.
One more point I want to add here, that umbilical, that stem cells, the stem cells becomes ultimately change into different parts, right? That is the base. So I mean, I can make an analogy that stem cell is equal to Mula Prakriti, which is then transformed into Sattva, Tamas, and then many things, which goes into different constituent parts of the universe. So stem cell can be analogous to the Mula Prakriti, and then everything else coming from that is the different things. I'm just my thought.
Excellent, Prakashji. Thank you very much. So the biology there is that the pluripotent stem cells, and they can differentiate into various lineages based on the transcriptomic profiling. So there is this transcriptional programming that happens of various. Let's not go into too much biology. This is the various genes, transcriptions, and silencing of gene expression. So it's a whole transcriptomic and epitranscriptomic programming that happens in pluripotent stem cells that then commits them to a particular lineage. Yeah, in cancer sciences, it's very important. So that's why I'm quite familiar with this, so how they do this. But then the question there, of course, Prakashji, is what makes the stem cell activate certain transcriptional programs? So although, as you beautifully said, stem cells is like Mula Prakriti, but still it cannot randomly do its own transcriptional programming. There has to be a sentient principle that directs it to certain lineages where it can then generate. So that is why that efficient cause comes so beautifully there. And of course, the stem cell is the material cause. Thanks, Prakash, for that very, very interesting contribution. Deval.
I'm sorry, my question is slightly different. So everywhere in our talks, we talk about how the Shastras talk about talk or teach through metaphors. excuse me. And over here, I mean, the simple metaphor would be that the umbilical cord is, as humans understand it, is the connection of one life to another life, giving life. Why are we, I mean, is that, do we need to look at, I mean, is the whole image of Vishnu and Lakshmi and Brahma a metaphor? Is my question.
Yeah, it is. So what you're seeing there of that water, there is this Ananta Sesha. On top of the Ananta Sesha is this Narayana, who is a lot of sleeping around. Then there is the Sri Tattva. Then there is the cord. Then there is the lotus. The whole thing is metaphorical. Its whole thing, there is not that, it's not that there is an umbilical cord that is coming out. It is not that there is a lotus that is there. So I completely agree with you, Devalji. When the Puranas, I mean, I think somewhere we discussed about Puranas, and even the Puranas that talk about all this, there are 3 levels. There are 3 levels of understanding Puranas, and the 3rd level, which is what we should be doing, is called Guhya Bhashya. So we should be looking at only the philosophical aspects of it to understand this. So I completely agree with you that it is through and through metaphorical. Yeah, and then why take a difficult example? Why not take an example of an umbilical cord? And again, in Chandogya Upanishad. So if you go to Chandogya Upanishad, Devalji, we did chapter 6, right? In chapter 6, there is a discussion on the various ways in which living organisms come about. Some come through seeds, some come through fertilization, and some comes through the umbilical cord. So it talks about all these things. So that is also there in our Upanishads. The spider one to me looks like it is there all over the place. It's very easy and we all see it all the time. Yet we don't think about the creatorship of Paramatma when we see the spiders. All that we think about is take a stick or take something and kill the spider. That is what we do. But let us think about the philosophy there. Pragnesh.
Slightly changing the topic, but I came across recently one controversial figure's little podcast. Some of you may have heard of somebody called Tony Nader. He's a neurologist working with Maharishi University, and he gives example. I'm referring to this Achantya Shakti's 3 criteria. The first one, contradictory and simultaneously. So he in this little YouTube video says about the small and big, and giving example of Hanumanji, he says it is like our hormones. Hormones are tiny molecules which penetrate various blood streams and from endocrine organs, but can have a tremendous influence from changing from a boy to man or a girl and boy different, or mother and lactation and all those things. So anyway, just a reference to this contradictory and simultaneous existence of Hanumanji. He has written a book on human physiology, Vedic literature, and next book on Ramayana and the Upanishad. So just to bring that.
Very, 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 very interesting. So dwelling on that Achintya Adbhuta Shakti is very important to remember, Pragneshi, that we apply all the 3 criteria, contradictory aspects simultaneously. Sure. And the evidence of that should come only from the Vedas. And the third one, it should only glorify Paramatma. Because there are some fools out there who will say, if God is so powerful, why can't he ensure that he destroys himself? Okay, so that is an argument, and there are also arguments that come around. So the way to get around this, you say, look, our Veda Vyasa has given these rules, and that is how we understand it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pragnesh. Excellent. If there are no further questions, let's close this. Wonderful. Thank you so much for a highly interactive session. So we'll close today. Shushu, do you want to take us to Omkara, please? Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. So we'll carry on next Sunday. I'm going to make an attempt to link in from Spain. I'm work-related travel, but I'll try and do it from Spain next Sunday. Look forward to talking through all the creatorships. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Take care and stay safe.
Hare Om Krishna Namaha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.